All right. Yeah. So we were discussing government macroeconomic objectives, right? So we covered fully why government sets the objective of low and stable rate of inflation. Okay, and if it is not achieved, what will happen? So the importance of setting this objective was discussed in the last class, and I actually explained you the meaning of low and stable rate of inflation as well. And keep on reading from my notes or from the textbook. And still, if you have any questions, you are most welcome to ask in the next class. All right. So next macroeconomic objective is high and stable level of employment. Uh, Now you understand high level of stable employment means that if let's say employment is increasing and it is at a high level, so it should stay there because if it keeps fluctuating, again there is an issue. Okay, we are going to discuss that. Okay, so employment should be high, that majority of the people should be employed. Okay, and the it should be stable as well. Now, if it is not achieved, like why this objective needs to be set by the government, or why government is after this objective. Reason is one, fall in GDP. Now, this is a point, right? But you need to develop this point. Fall in GDP, how will it happen? Because let's say if employment is not high, that shows that you are not actually using the labor which is available in the country. Simple as that. And you know that labor is one of the factor of production which is required in producing goods and services. So if the employment level is low, that means majority of the people living in the country are not being used in the production process, right? So that shows that lower output will be produced, lower goods and services will be produced. Okay, that will result in fall in GDP. And you know what will happen with a fall in GDP, right? Let me now write it because I want you to develop it in a better way. Okay, let me just do it for you. That what will happen if there will be a fall in GDP? I'm writing it here. Okay, effect of effect of a fall in GDP. Okay, and I told you that while developing points in economics, you have to make connections, right? So first is that if unemployment is low, that means majority of the people are not being used for producing either goods or services, right? Okay, that leads to lower GDP. As a result, people of the country won't be able to buy goods and services they require, right? Leading to,
How come unemployment is low?
okay, all right, okay, let me finish this. I'll come to your point as well. Okay, to buy goods and services they require, leading to lower living standards, or you can say leading to poverty as well, right? Okay, now let me just drag it this way. Now you can easily observe that here um, I have actually made some connection. If you see the first line, because we are talking about effect of a fall in GDP. So if unemployment is low, that means okay. Now listen carefully that we are actually into explaining why what will happen if there is low unemployment. Okay, so there will be a fall in GDP. Okay, fall in GDP, and if unemployment is low, that means majority of the people are not being used for producing either goods or services. So this is the explanation of falling GDP, basically, right? So let me just do it for you. Okay, and then either goods and services. This is one connection I made. Then I further connected it with another sentence that is that leads to lower GDP. Okay, I explained that, and then I further continue that this is another connection. As a result, people of the country won't be. This is another connection. Let me use a different color. Won't be able to buy goods and services they require, leading to lower living standards. So you can see that whenever you develop your point, what you need to do that you need to make connections, and this is how we can make connections. Points
सर
remain the same.
बस
Yes, please.
सर लेकिन जब अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट लो होगी तो मतलब मैं तो ज़्यादा लोग एम्प्लॉयड है तो स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग इम्प्रूव नहीं होगा.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. All right. Listen. That is my mistake actually. That it's not unemployment. This is employment. Okay. Let me just rub it. This is when employment is low, right? This is now it's fine, right? If employment is low, that means now it's fine, okay? So there is now you can see that there are some connection there in the development of this point. So this is how you can develop points, okay? And you can get more marks, right? Okay. Now yes. So yes, somebody was raising the question. Now what's the question? There is none. Abdullah, you were asking earlier how unemployment. Okay, so maybe the same question was there. How unemployment was low? Yes. So actually, the right word was that was incorrect. Na? If employment is low, or you can say if unemployment is high, both are both have the same meaning. If unemployment is high, so I was actually about to write this and then, but by mistake, I actually wrote uh, um, low there. Right. Okay. So both can be used. It's entirely up to you. I'm just telling you or explaining you the art to explain points in economics. Right. So don't forget that. All right. Okay. Now moving onwards to the slide, you can see falling GDP, then welfare payments required, unemployment allowance. Okay. And I told you earlier about this as well. And what is that? Just a minute. I think somebody is waiting. Let me see who is there. All right. Let me see that somebody is Abdullah guy is saying should not employment be low? Yeah, there. So yeah. So you got it right, huh? Abdullah, very good that you pointed it out. Now, okay, sharing is there, right? Okay. All right. Now, welfare payments, welfare payments are basically, I told you, they are free payments. Okay. We discussed that earlier as well, that without actually providing any good and service, the government has to provide it to the people because they are unemployed. They do not have any income. So to meet their basic necessities, they have to make them the payment, and we call them welfare payments or unemployment allowance. Sometimes it is called job seekers allowance as well. People who are looking for job but they are not able to find jobs, they actually get some amount from the government to meet their basic necessities. Now, this is why this is not good. Anybody? Why this is not in the benefit of the economy and the government? Anybody? Anybody? Any idea? No? Now I can see 11 to actually 10 students here. Even Wali Rahman is there as well. All right. So if you have no idea, okay, it does not matter. Now, I told you that this is a non-productive expenditure. I told you earlier about it as well. Let me write it there. Unemployment allowance is a non-productive expenditure. And I told you what does it mean, non-productive. Non-productive expenditure is not good for the economy at all. Why? Because it has lot of opportunity cost. I'll explain you that. Now, it's a non-productive expenditure. And by the way, what is a non-productive expenditure? It is a kind of payment payment where no good or service is produced or provided in return. That government is spending a certain amount, but nothing is being produced in the form of good or service. So this is a non-productive expenditure. And why it is an opportunity cost? Because you know what is an opportunity cost. That amount could have been used somewhere else to produce certain goods and services. For example, government is paying a certain amount to unemployed people, right? The same, and you know that it is not actually contributing to the GDP of the country, right? That is why non-productive expenditure is not good at all for the economy or for the government because it has a lot of opportunity cost and it does not contribute in the GDP of the country. So I'm writing it there. As a result, it does not contribute to the GDP of the country. Moreover, moreover, it has an opportunity cost because the same amount could have been used uh, to, let's say, build schools, right? Um, Providing healthcare, uh, building infrastructure, building infrastructure, right? etc. Right. So this is now. I think you are absolutely clear about what is unemployment allowance and why it is not in the benefit of the government and even for the economy as well. So we are done with it. Uh, any questions regarding this point? Welfare payments required and why it is a disadvantage for the economy, and that is why high level of employment is required. If employment is low or unemployment is high, welfare payments are bound to occur, and then the same effect will occur on the economy, what I mentioned or what I explained. All right, then burden. Okay, any question regarding this the second point I explained or I developed right there? If you have a question, do ask me. No question? All right, up to you.
सर ये
Yeah.
अपॉर्चुनिटी कॉस्ट जरा भूला हुआ है, जरा दोबारा बता दें।
मैं आपको बता देता हूँ। मैं लेट मी राइट इट देयर. Okay, good. Very good. So you can ask me question. I know that you actually did that way back in grade 9, in I think maybe the very first class. Huh? So okay, what is it is, let me write it. Opportunity cost is a cost. Opportunity cost is the next best alternative forgone by choosing another item or by choosing another option. Okay, another option. Now, what does it mean actually? It means I told you earlier about, the teacher must have told you about that. For example, if there are, let's say, two options available to anyone, okay? Let's say these are two options, okay? One is option A, the other option, let's say one, you can write this, option one, and second is option two, right? Two options are there, and because you cannot choose both the options. Do you know why you cannot choose both the options? Because the resources are always limited. If you use the resources for option one, it will not be available for option two. That is the problem. So you have to choose one option, and this is a problem faced by everybody. Either it is an individual, firm, or government. Although we will discuss that when we revise the chapters which you covered in grade 9 and 10. But still, because you asked the question and I actually mentioned that in the development of the point, so it's my duty to explain it to you. Now, let's say if the individual or the firm or the government chooses this option, there were only two options. So it means now this option cannot be availed, right? So it means the benefit from choosing this option is lost, right? Or is not available now because you have used resources or you have chosen the option number one, right? There. That's right. Okay. Now, listen, this is option number two. So same is the case with this as the point I explained. If you see that obviously if the government is there to provide unemployment allowance, okay, to the people, obviously that amount will not be available to do what? Will not be available to build schools, to provide health care, right? So it means that the benefit of schools to the people, the benefit of the healthcare to the people, the benefit of a better infrastructure so that they can move around in the country easily. That won't be available because it is lost now because government has chosen the other option. And why government has chosen that option? Because that was rather more important. Because people are dying. Obviously, you have to support them with certain amount of money. Huh? You can't actually spend money on schools or healthcare and infrastructure. People do not, or people are left with no money. So you have to provide them with money despite its negative impact. So that was the best option which was available there, providing unemployment allowance to people, but it has an opportunity cost, and that is the benefit which could have been obtained by building schools or providing healthcare or building infrastructure. Now it will be lost, and the people of the country cannot have that benefit any longer. So, got it?
Okay, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, moving onwards. Now, the last point of the same objective, that why government wants to have high and stable level of employment. So if it is not achieved, again the third point, the problem is burden on those who are employed. Now, what kind of burden it is? Do you have any idea? What kind of burden it is? on those who are
सर
employed.
टैक्स बढ़ेंगे.
Okay, all right, very good, Yaya. Great. I was not expecting that from you. From in fact from any student. That's great. Yes. Okay. There are two types of burden. One, that now, let's say earlier there was a family of 10 and 10 members and five were employed. Now only one is employed. So it means that now that only person has to support all the family members, and the income might not be sufficient to support all the family members, right? So this is actually a huge burden, and that person may have to work extra hour. Okay, the person may have to work extra hour, so that will be a burden on the shoulders of that person. Extra fatigue needs to be taken. The person will, obviously the health will be affected because now the person is working for more hours, because now the only person is there who is employed in the family. So obviously he or she has to support the whole family, right? That is one point. Second is, that if there are certain people who are unemployed, so government has to support, that. Okay, but this is not the case in every country. Government does not support in every country. Like in Pakistan or in other developing country, there is no unemployment allowance. In Pakistan, if you are unemployed, unemployment allowance is not given. You have to support your family, whatever way possible, right? So that is the point I mentioned first. Now we can talk about welfare state, like talk about UK, Canada, US. So there, actually, unemployment allowance is given to the people who are unemployed. So here, how burden can arise? Now, because now people are unemployed, but do you know how government is financed for their expenditures? Like whatever expenditure government makes, they require a certain amount of money. So how do they get it? Government actually collected from taxes, and taxes is one of the major source of revenue for the government, right? So now if the number of people unemployed is increasing, it means government is going to get less taxes, because if less people are employed, less tax will be collected from the income of the people. Obviously, na, if you are not employed, you won't pay tax, obviously. So now government will be collecting less amount of tax. So how government will be supporting those people as well? Because government has to support all the people. It doesn't matter whether they are employed or unemployed. I'm talking about welfare states. So what government does? Government increase the tax rate. Okay, that is the downside. Government increases the tax rate on those people who are left employed. Now this will increase the burden on those people, because whatever income they were getting earlier, the income is the same, but now they have to pay more taxes to the government, right? Like for example, if there was some person who was having 10,000 rupees, or let's say 100,000 rupees income per month. Okay, and that person was actually paying, let's say, 10,000 tax. I'm just giving an example. So right now, I'm not saying that whether the person is eligible to pay tax or not. Right now, just take it as an example. This is the income of the person, right? And the tax is 10,000. Now, what happens? Or let's say, because tax is generally not in amount, it is in percentage. So let's say it is 10%. Okay. So obviously the person has to pay 10,000 as the amount of tax, right? Because 10% of 100,000 is 10,000. Now, if the tax, because unemployment increases, the government needs the same amount of money. In fact, they may require more amount of money, because now they have to support unemployed people. They have to pay them unemployment allowance. So government increases the taxes to 20%. Now that is actually the problem, because earlier the person was only paying 10,000, right? Now the person has to pay 20,000 from the income, and that is the burden we are talking about, right? Especially in case of welfare state. So actually, what will happen? The burden will increase, and that person will also be discouraged to work. The person will say, I am actually getting the same amount. Now I have to pay more tax. What is the point of then getting that employment or keep on going with that employment? So let's leave the job and get the money from the government in the form of unemployment allowance. So that is actually the downside of this, right? Of not achieving high and stable level of employment. Okay. Any questions regarding any of the point which I just mentioned there? Any questions? No? All right. Okay, great. So we can now move on to the third macroeconomic objective which government desires to achieve, and that is economic growth and increased standard of living. Right now, economic growth may lead to increased standard of living as well, but it may not lead to increased standard of living as well. That's why it's written economic growth and increased standard of living. Now let's discuss first what is economic growth. Although again we will discuss that in the coming chapters, but because the concept is there, so we need to have some idea about it. Although we'll discuss in detail about economic growth and its effects as well. Now let's see what anybody who can explain me what is economic growth? Economic growth. It's a common term which is used for economy. Now that the fastest growing economy is China. You know that it's not one of the fastest. It is the fastest. Turkey is one of the fastest as well. India is also now there's COVID-19, so obviously it is badly affecting their economy. India, despite being a poor economy, was one of the fastest growing economies. China is the fastest, you know. So is economic growth occurs when there is an increase in real output of the economy. Increase in real output of the economy in a year. It can be 6 months as well, but we can generally we can say that in a year it is calculated. So economic growth is normally calculated in percentage, but you need to understand what is real output. Now, let me give you an example of it as well. You can see the definition is economic growth occurs or economic growth is a situation. I told you that we'll discuss that in detail in the coming chapters, but here we need to understand this concept. Economic growth occurs when there is an increase in real output of the economy in a year. And let's see, let's discuss what is real output. Let me just give you an example. Let's say I'm just taking a very small example. There is a country, okay, where 2 cars are produced. 2 cars are produced. Okay, small example, so that you will have a better understanding of it. 2 cars are produced. Okay, price of each car is let's say it is 2 lakhs or let's say 20 lakhs. Okay, 20 lakh rupees for example. Price of each car is 20 lakhs. So what would be our output or GDP? Okay, another term which is used for real GDP is, let me write this as well. You can also say real output as real GDP. And GDP, you know that when you add the market value of all the goods and services, when you add all the market value of all the goods and services produced every in a year, we get real GDP. We get, sorry, GDP, right? Real GDP is different. So here we are assuming that a country is only producing 2 cars in a year, and the price of each car is 2 lakhs. So obviously the GDP is 400,000. Obviously 400,000 rupees, because GDP is the market value, means you know that the price at which the product is sold in the market. That is the market value. So we add the market value of all the goods we get GDP. This is GDP, right? Now, what happens? This is year one. Let's say this is year one. Now, let's talk about year two. What happens in year two? In year two, only two cars are produced. Okay? Again, only two cars produced. Okay, two cars. That means I won't write this. Okay, two cars. Price of each car now, let's say because of inflation, it has gone up. Sorry. And let's say now the price of each car is 400,000 because of inflation. You know what is inflation? The general rise in the price level in a country. So 400,000 rupees, and now the GDP will be how much? Because there are two cars, it will be 800,000, right? So now GDP is 8. Now, can we say this is an increase in real output? No. Why? Because output is the same. In year one, two cars were being produced. In year two, again the same cars are being produced. So there is no change in the actual production of goods. So why there is a high price? You can see that why the GDP value has gone up. Earlier it was 400,000. Now it is 800,000. The reason is because the prices have gone up because of inflation. And this is not economic growth, because this is what we do not call it increase in real output or increase in real sales. Remember, okay? Now, let me give you another example. Okay, here. Let's say if in year two, this is year one. I'll keep it with year one is same, right? This is year one. And let me just remove this value. Instead of two cars, let's say, instead of two cars, now four cars are produced. How many? Four. Let me write it. Four cars are now being produced. Okay? And obviously, the price is the same. That is 200,000. Right? There is no change in the price. In the previous year, the price was 200,000 for each car. This year also the price is the same, 200,000. Okay, but now the GDP has gone up with the same value, 800,000. Earlier it was 400,000. This is what we call increase in real output. This is real output. When actually the amount of goods and services produced in a country, they increase in a country over a period of time, and normally it is a year. Right? This is the example of increase in real output in this case. Okay? Because price has not changed at all. So now you understand that economic growth basically means increasing real output. Okay? So it is not linked with the changing price. If price changes and GDP value increases, it is not called economic growth. Only when economic growth only occurs when there is an increase in real output, and I told you what does that mean. Now, any questions regarding economic growth or the point I explained? No question? All right. So that means you are clear. Manha, is that clear to you?
Yes.
All right. Great. Okay. Now you can see the third objective, macroeconomic objective of the government: economic growth and increased standard of living. Now remember, I wrote standard living should also be up. Now, what does it mean, standard living? It means people are able to have greater facilities, greater amount of goods and services. Okay? So we say that standard living is going up. Like people have the facility of getting education in good schools. People have the facility of taking care of their health by visiting good quality hospitals. There is good infrastructure, good quality of goods and services are available to consume. Right? People have a nice shelter in the form of a good house. And other facilities as well. So we say the standard of living is up, right? But think about why I wrote economic growth can lead to increased standard of living. I have used the word here, what can. I'm not saying it will. Okay. Reason is because, for example, economic growth is going on, and this is because economic growth is when there is an increase in the real output produced in a country over a year. Let's say, but we need to identify which type of output is being produced. For example, if capital is being produced, okay, machine, equipment, right? Now, in the short run, are we going to give the benefit to the consumers? Is there any benefit of producing capital goods such as equipment, new updated technology, tools to produce certain items? It is only going to help producers in the future. So that means consumers will not get any benefit, at least in the short run, if capital goods are being produced. But economic growth will be taking place, right? Because economic growth is increase in real output. Doesn't matter whatever the output is. Okay? So it means standard of living will not increase, at least in the short run. In the longer run, yes, it will increase because those capital goods, such as machinery, equipment, and new technology will be used to produce more goods and services, and then people will be able to consume them as well. But in the shorter run, because resources are being used for the production of capital goods, so consumers won't get the benefit, and that is why standard living won't increase in that way, right? Similarly, if I talk about, let's say, if a country is in a state of war with another country, so you know that what happens. Majority of the budget is actually used for defense. Okay, that is quite obvious. You know that. So what happens? That then the government has to compromise on other goods, like maybe providing healthcare or school education, right? So that can happen. So it means that when because majority of the resources or the finance is being used for defense because the country is in the state of war, so consumers, people won't have a good standard living because now they are not getting the goods they desire because government is actually right now focusing on their defense, right? So, but remember, for that government is using more resources to, let's say, train more people so that they can be part of the army. They are opening more training institutions. They are actually spending money to buy weapons, right? Yes. So, and more weapons are being manufactured in the industry. Let's say, so goods are being produced, services are being provided in the training center as well. Okay, but the problem is people in general won't get the benefits because they won't get the goods they desire because majority of the finance and the resources are being used for that purpose, for the defense purpose, right? So again, standard living won't increase, but economic growth will be taking place because output is being produced, real output is increasing, right? So that is why I've used both the term economic growth and increased standard living. Both are important, but sometimes economic growth is taking place, but standard living does not increase, as I explained here. So if it is not achieved, just a minute, if it is not achieved, so what is the result? What is the outcome? Obviously, the negative outcome will be lower living standard, employment, and income. Because generally we say that economic growth is associated with higher living standard, with some exceptions. The examples I already gave you, right? So if economic growth is leading to standard living, so it won't occur. If economic growth is not taking place, the country is not producing more output. So that means lower living standards for people. Why? Because population is increasing, right? So when population is increasing, so demand for goods is also increasing. But if economic growth is not taking place, more output is not being produced, there is a problem. People now might not be able to get the goods they desire, and living standards will start going down. Similar is the case with employment. economic growth is not there, and more output is not being produced. So what would you do with the increasing population? How would you adjust them in the job sector? How can you actually give them the employment? This is not possible now. But when economic growth is taking place, this is easy. Why? Because you can just give them lots of opportunity because output is increasing, firms they demand more workers to be used in the production. So then you can give them the employment. Think about take the example of China. China, the largest country in the world as far as population is concerned, so they have made use of their population. Okay, and because they are having economic growth, so they are utilizing their manpower in the sector, right? And they are making good use of their population. So now their population is becoming their strength. Okay, and that just happened because of economic growth. So, but if it is not there, obviously unemployment will prevail, and you know that further you need to develop it. When unemployment happens, what would be the result? Again, unemployment allowance, opportunity cost, government have to spend money on people supporting them, and that money cannot be used for other purposes such as healthcare, school education. I gave you the example, huh? The development of that money. Okay, and income as well. So if employment is low, then income will also be low. People won't be able to buy the goods they were buying earlier because their purchasing power is low, and that will lead to poverty in the country. And then second point, lower tax revenue. Again, this is easy because when less people will be employed, so less taxes will be collected. Okay, remember, there are actually two types of taxes which are collected. Let me just write it there. There, okay. Although we will talk about taxes as well, but I am just giving you some idea of the concepts which are coming. Actually, and this is my way. Like whenever I see a concept there, so it doesn't matter whether it's there in the chapter or not. But because it is used, so it's my duty to explain it to you, so that for your better understanding. Now, taxes can be of like two types. One is income tax, right, and the other could be sales tax. Okay, in a broad way. Okay, so income tax basically is a kind of a tax which is taken from the income of the people who are employed, right? Who are either running their own business, who are employed, they pay tax from their income. We call it income tax. This is one of the source of revenue for the government. Second is when people spend money on different items. Like let's say you visit a restaurant and you pay the bill after having the dinner. So you know that at the bottom of the bill or the invoice, it's written GST, that is General Sales Tax, okay, which you have to pay. That is around 17%. Okay, so you whenever you spend money on goods and services, you have to pay tax on it as well. Whenever you buy something, a good, so you always see the price. So we never see what is the tax charge on it. We just see the final price and we pay. Okay. Similarly, you get your mobile card charge. Again, you pay a tax on it as well. So these all are examples of sales tax. You buy an air ticket for an air travel. Again, you just pay the price, but tax is included in the price of the ticket. So tax is everywhere, whatever you buy. Simple as that. That is sales tax. So now if there is lower economic growth and as a result there is unemployment, so it means people will buy less, obviously because they have lower purchasing power, people will buy less. So it means lower amount of sales tax will be collected. Simple as that. So government revenue will go down. Similarly, because people are not employed, because economic growth is not taking place, unemployment is taking place there. So income tax. Now less people are there who are having jobs, who are getting incomes. So income tax will be uh, also go down unless and until government increases the tax percentage. I told you earlier. Okay, if government increases the tax percentage, government might be getting the same amount of income tax. But if government does not do it, then income tax will also go down, sales tax will also go down. So it will actually reduce the source of revenue for the revenue for the government. Okay, it will reduce the government revenue, and you know that government is there to spend on public welfare. Then less amount will be there to spend on public welfare, and you know that what will happen even further lower living standard and poverty, right? Okay. Then the last, so lower tax revenue and hence lower government spending. I explained you that. Okay. So lower government spending, and you know that we discussed about two types of the government spending: capital expenditure and current expenditure. So there will be no capital expenditure, like no spending on infrastructures, building schools, building dams, electricity generation, right? And there will be no current expenditure as well, like the amount which government requires to run their offices on daily basis. So obviously there will be a huge problem for the government as well and for the people of the country as well, because now they are not getting the support from the government. Okay, so poverty will take place. Third point is firms will be discouraged, right? Firms will be discouraged. So why firms will be discouraged? Because if economic growth is not taking place and general living is going down, for example, it means people won't buy. Simple as that. They do not have the power to buy. So if demand is going down, what is the point of producing more? In fact, the firms will try to squeeze their size. They will say, no, we'll reduce our size because there is not enough demand for our products. So, and that is not good. Why? Because again, if firms actually they satisfy the needs and wants of the people who are there in the country. If firms they reduce their size or they are discouraged, now who is going to satisfy the needs and wants of the people? Right? Let's say you go to a hairdresser to have your hair cut, you go to a beauty parlor, you buy dresses from the market which are manufactured by textile mills, or you buy medicines, or you buy other like cosmetic items, cell phones, cars. So all are produced by firms. So if they are discouraged, so imagine that how can you be able to satisfy your needs and wants? So that is it for economic growth and increased standard of living. Last is, in fact, not the last, second last, stable balance of payment. If not achieved, what will happen? Now, this is the fourth government macroeconomic objective. Balance of payment, I guess you understand it because you must have studied that in geography as well. Can anybody tell me what is balance of payment before I move on to stable balance of payment?
Set the value of imports and exports.
Very good, Yaya. Great. Balance of payment basically records the total value of exports and imports. That's right. Okay. And I told you if balance of payment is not stable, I'm just giving you an idea. If it is not stable, let me give you an example. Let's say um, I'll do it at the bottom here. Let's say it records total value of exports and imports, right? So if let's say uh, value of value of exports is greater, sorry, is less than value of imports, what happens? Okay, just a minute. I need to my battery is down, so I need to plug in my charger. So just a minute, huh? Just wait there. Okay, all right, I'm back. Um, yeah. So I was explaining to you about if balance of payment is not stable. It means, let's say, if your exports are not increasing in the same way your imports are increasing, right? Or your exports are constant, but your imports are increasing, and that's why the value of exports is less than the value of imports. Okay, if this is the case, right? If this is the case, because we are into talking about balance of payment, and we call it this is, and it keeps on rising. Imports keep on rising, and exports either do not rise or they do not rise in the same way as imports rise. So obviously it will cause unstable balance of payment. Okay. Now imports keep on rising. Now what is the effect? Now, as I told you, that when you export, it means you sell your goods and services to other countries, you get foreign exchange. And foreign exchange is very important for an economy. Why? One of the reason is that whenever you want to buy something from other countries, that is imports, you use that foreign currency. Okay, I gave you the example the other day as well. Like if you want to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you have to pay them in dollars. So if you already have dollars, you can easily pay it. You don't need to buy dollars, right? But that is only possible if your exports are greater. If you are actually selling many goods and services to other countries, such as US. Okay, so you get dollars. Okay, and then when you have to pay to other countries because you are importing from those countries, so you pay them in dollars. So that becomes quite easier for you, right? But if this is happening, imports are greater than exports and imports keep on rising. Okay, let me write it there. Gap, gap keeps on increasing. Okay, if this is the case, gap keeps on increasing. So there is a problem there, and we call it unstable balance of payment. So if this means you have to, if you have foreign currency, let's say foreign currency reserves, so now you have to use more of your foreign currency. You are not getting that much amount of foreign currency, okay, because your exports are less. Let me write it there as well. Sorry, exports increase foreign currency. In fact, foreign currency reserves, right? Foreign currency reserves. Also, although I told you that we'll talk about this chapter exchange rate in the last unit, but because now there is a concept there, so I have to explain you a bit. Foreign currency reserves, yeah, exports increase foreign currency reserves, right? Whereas imports reduce it. Okay. Do you know why? Because when you get foreign currency and you have now lots of foreign currency reserves, so when you import goods, you have to use that currency. Right? If you have dollars and a country wants dollar to be paid because you can't use rupees because they won't accept your currency. And dollar is a strong currency, in fact, one of the strongest currency in the world. So other countries they like to have this. Okay, we'll talk about what is a strong currency and what is a weak currency, but right now this is not the topic under discussion. So what will happen? Imports will reduce the amount of foreign reserves of a country. And now in the future, what will happen? Let me write it there. If imports are rising, then in the future, countries will run out of foreign reserves. Foreign reserves. Okay, and that is a big problem because as a country, if you do not have foreign reserves, how can you buy imports then? You cannot. Okay, so it means then you have to buy foreign currency first, and To buy foreign currency, you have to use your own currency. It will be consumed. So I think I should not touch that. Actually, it is fine if I say that currency reserves will run out, and then there will not be enough foreign reserves or foreign currency reserves to use to be used to buy imports. And you know that no country can claim that they can produce everything they desire. All countries, they have to buy something from some other country. Reason? Because no country can claim that they have all the resources in the world which they require to meet the needs and wants of their people. This is not possible. No? Simple as that. So they have to buy something from somewhere. So for that they require foreign reserves. So if they are not there, so they will be in great trouble, right? So the country will be in hot water. So that is the outcome of unstable balance of payment. Okay, this is one outcome, but this is fine if you explain that. Now, if you see, unstable balance of payment is required. If not achieved, may run out of foreign currency to buy imports. I explained you that. And your exchange rate, it can fall or it can rise as well. Now let me explain you that whether it will rise or fall. Now, uh, what does that mean? Let me explain you that as well. Let's say, uh, let me use, let me find this page now. Yeah, there. Okay. Let's say right now $1 $1 is equal to, for example, 152 rupees. For example, roughly, if this is the case, because it keeps fluctuating, right, on daily basis. $1 is equal to 152 rupees. Okay, so if you really want to buy something from America and the value of that item is $1, how much would you pay? 152 rupees, obviously. Reason? Because you won't pay rupees directly. You will convert rupees in dollars. Okay, you will pay 152 rupees. You will get $1, right? And then you will pay to the to US company to get that good value in $1, right? Now, let's say if exchange rate of your currency depreciates. Now, what does it mean when exchange rate depreciates? It means the value of your currency goes down in terms of other currency. Now, because we are talking about dollars, so I'll write, let's say $1 now is equal to, let's say 200 rupees. Now imagine, now in order to buy the same value of good, that is $1, okay, of $1, you have to pay $200, because now 200 rupees is equal to $1. Earlier it was 152 rupees a dollar. So now it means you will pay $200 to get $1. Sorry, 200 rupees to get $1, and then you will pay $1 to buy the good valuing $1. So this will be very expensive for you, and we call it that Pakistani rupees. We call it PKR. PKR is depreciating. Okay, and what does it mean? That means it is losing its value in terms of it is losing its value in terms of another currency, and in that case it is dollar. Okay, in terms of other currency, and here specifically we are talking about dollars. Okay, we can also say losing its external value of currency. That can also be used, that word. Okay, that word, external value of the currency. We can also use that as well, right? So this is the biggest downside when, let's say, your balance of payment is unstable. And why it is unstable? Because your imports are higher than your exports, and imports keep on rising, let's say. Okay, and exports are not increasing. So what will happen? Your exchange rate will depreciate. The currency exchange rate of your will depreciate, right? What does it mean, and why will it happen? Because now, when you are importing more, you have to buy more of the currency of that country. Let's say you are buying from US, your imports are increasing, and you are buying more of dollars. Okay, you go to a money changer, you buy dollars, and then you pay for the goods you want from the US, right? It means the more you buy dollars, the lower will be the value of the currency that is PKR. Remember, and the more you buy dollars, the value of the dollars will increase. You can see 200 rupees. So it's quite easy. Huh? You know that why Tom Cruise charged too much for a movie? What is the reason? The reason is because he is demanded by every director, every producer, right? That's why, no? So that's why he is able to charge a very high amount. Think about Angelina Jolie. Why she is able to charge a huge amount for a movie, right? Again, because all the movie makers they want to hire her as an actress in their movies. That's why, similarly, if I talk about the demand of a currency, if demand of a currency is rising, like you are getting goods from America, okay, you are importing from America and you are demanding US dollars because you have to pay them in US dollars, the demand of US dollar is increasing. So it means US dollar will appreciate and PKR will depreciate. It has the same meaning. When US dollar will appreciate, it means that against Pakistani rupees, it means that Pakistani rupees are going down. They are depreciating. So we can use both the terms. We can say in this example that US dollar is appreciating against Pakistani rupees or Pakistani rupees are depreciating against US dollars. So this is one of the downside of fluctuating balance of payment or unstable balance of payment. And you know that if your currency is going down, as the example I gave you, now you have to pay more money to buy the same amount of goods. Example I gave you earlier. Earlier you were buying a good valuing $1 for 152 rupees. Now you have to buy the same value of good that is of $1. You have to pay 200 rupees. So it will get more expensive for Pakistan to buy. And imagine if the item is a necessity. Think about oil. Oil is a necessity. We have to buy it. So imagine then it will be a big trouble for the country. They have to borrow money from other financial institutions such as IMF, World Bank, Development Bank, and that is what Pakistan is doing. Pakistan does not have sufficient amount of foreign reserves, and that's why they go to IMF every year. That is International Monetary Fund. Okay, that is the problem, and then the country goes into deep trouble as Pakistan is. Right. So now, getting back to the slide, now you can see now. So if stable balance of payment is not achieved, it may run out of country may run out of foreign currency to buy imports. And you know that if imports are necessities such as oil, so you can imagine what difficulty a country and the people of the country can face. Okay, then exchange rate may fall or rise. I told you. So I gave the example how exchange rate may fall. It can rise as well, right? Let me give you that example that how exchange rate can rise. Let's say I gave you the example that if just a minute, yeah, there. If value of exports unstable balance payment is when value of exports is less than value of imports. So balance payment can be unstable in this way as well. Let me show it to you. Uh, just a minute. There, right? Now let's say if I write um, value of exports, I'm just writing exports, okay, rather than value. Although you have to write value of exports, huh? Because balance of payment records value of exports, just not exports. So exports are greater than imports, right? Exports are increasing day by day, and the gap between exports and imports is increasing, right? It looks that it is good, okay? That if our exports are increasing, it means more money is coming into our country. People from other countries, they are paying us, okay? Fine. Our foreign exchange reserves are increasing. Yes, that's right. Okay. Yes, our foreign exchange reserves are rising. So you can say exactly opposite of it is true. Whatever I wrote here. Now exports are increasing greater than imports, so foreign reserves will increase. Okay, that is good. But the problem is, you know what will happen when your exports are increasing? That means that people from other countries, they are demanding your currency. Let me show it there. Here, right? Let's say if America is now buying from you, okay, rather than you buying from America, they are buying from. Let's say Pakistan has discovered oil, fortunately, okay, and now America is buying from Pakistan. Although America has lots of oil reserves, but I'm just giving an example. Now buying from Pakistan. Now let's say earlier, if the exchange rate was $1 is equal to, I'll give the same example, that is 152. Okay, and now after the discovery of oil, because now US has started buying from Pakistan because it is cheaper, for example. So now $1 will be, um, $1 now goes to, let's say, 100 rupees. Now what happened? Now this is what we call Pakistani currency has appreciated, and Pakistani currency in terms of dollar has appreciated, and dollar in terms of Pakistani rupees has depreciated. Why? Because now Americans, in order to buy, let's say, they earlier they were paying $1 to buy 150 rupees, right? Okay, to buy oil from Pakistan. Now they have, if they pay $1, they will only get 100 rupees. It means the same quantity of oil, if they want to buy the same quantity of oil, they have to pay more dollars to Pakistan. It's good for Pakistan, not for America, but what will happen? It means it is now expensive for America to buy from Pakistan, right? So America was buying from Pakistan just because it is cheaper to buy from Pakistan. Now because it is no longer cheaper because of exchange rate appreciation of PKR against dollar, so they won't buy from Pakistan. Okay, so it will actually reduce the exports of the country. Okay, and exports will start going down, and again that is not good for the country because the foreign exchange reserves which you are having now they will start going down, right? So that is again the downside of it, and you can see here that's why I written exchange rate may fall or rise, and both are not in the benefit.
सर
Remember,
ये
listen. First, yeah, yes, yeah.
सर ये अमेरिका को महंगा कैसे पड़ेगा क्योंकि रुपीस को 100 रुपए का हो गया है
Just a minute. Okay, I wrote 100. Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, I was sorry, 200. Okay, now it means for to buy, when they pay $1, they will get 200 rupees. Now it is expensive. Yeah, yeah, got it.
ओके सर
Okay, thank you very much for highlighting the mistake, and it means that you are actually attending my lessons very carefully. All right. Okay. Uh, so it's 200, right? Now it is for Americans. It is expensive to buy PKR, so they won't buy from Pakistan if they are buying oil from them, and that will reduce the exports of Pakistan, right? And it will reduce the foreign currency reserves for Pakistan as well. Okay, as far as dollars are concerned. So then Pakistan will face difficulty in importing goods from other countries because now they are struggling with their foreign currency reserves. They are running out. Okay, all right. So that's why I wrote that. So both are actually the disadvantages if balance of payment is not stable. But you are supposed to develop them properly. Remember, you cannot simply write that it may run out of foreign currency. You need to explain what will happen then, how it is actually not good for the economy or for the people of the economy. Same, if exchange rate falls or rises, why it will fall or rise, we have to explain that, and what will be the impact on the economy or on the people of the economy. You have to mention that as well. All right. Now, any question you have regarding it?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, if the
Mana, just yeah, carry on. Yes.
sir, if dollar is depreciating for Pakistan and the currency of Pakistan is appreciating, how is it not beneficial for Pakistan?
How? Sorry, come again.
Sir, I mean that if like if we find a oil reserve just like you said, and then our currency would appreciate, right? So, sir, how is it not beneficial for us?
Reason is because if our currency, let me just correct that, because now it looks that both the numbers look the same. Like this was the, let me just give it to you. This was the earlier example. Na? If let's say this is the exchange rate, okay, and now America is buying from Pakistan, right? So what will happen now? Let me just use a different value. Na? It's not 200 because highlighted by Yaya. Now, okay, now America has to, let me write it there. This is 50, or earlier it was 152, so fine, I can understand that what was the value. Let's say, what happens that when America will start buying from Pakistan, they will demand more PKR, right? They will pay dollars and they will buy Pakistani rupees. Pakistani rupees will appreciate, right? So earlier, let's say if it was 152, so it earlier 152, so it came down to 100. Let's say that was the example I gave na, to Yaya. So Yaya, now it means that $1 is equal to 100 rupees. So Americans, when they will pay $1, they won't get 152 rupees. They will get 100. Yeah, are you getting my point?
Oh, sir, ठीक है, आ गई समझ में, confusion हो
Right? Yeah, so I was actually looking at the first example actually. So that's why now, Bana, to answer to your question is that now if Americans, now Pakistani currency is appreciating. Like you can see that earlier $1 was equal to 150 rupees. Okay, like Pakistanis, they pay 150 rupees to buy $1. Now Pakistani people has to pay only 100 rupees to buy $1. So it's cheaper for Pakistani people, but it is expensive for Americans. Okay, if Pakistani currency is appreciating, so what will happen? They will stop buying from Pakistan. Na? They will actually find some other country to buy from where they can buy it cheaply. So Pakistani exports will go down because when currency of a country appreciates, people of other countries, they buy it. They find it expensive to buy from them, and as a result, exports go down. Manha, got your answer?
Yes, sir. Only that 200 was confusing me. So,
Yeah, that's actually that was confusing because Yaya raised that point, and then I realized that actually that was fine, but that was quite similar to the previous example I gave there. So that's why I used a different number there. Now it's quite understandable. All right. So, is there any other question from your side?
no, sir.
Okay. All right. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next class.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Good afternoon.